Picture this, 23 pairs of eyes boring into you. Your own mother's handprint still burning on your cheek. A lawyer nervously shuffling papers in the corner. And nearly $10 million hanging in the balance. My father slams his fist on the table. Sign it, Kyra. Now. The pen sits there on the contract, gleaming under the chandelier light like a loaded weapon. Everyone expects me to break. To fold. To be the obedient daughter I've always been. Instead, I smile. And then I ask the lawyer one simple question, 7 words that will detonate this room like a precision strike. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You need to understand how we got here. How a girl who spent her childhood in the shadows learned to fight in the light. Hey everyone, welcome back to Valor Voice, where we share stories of courage, resilience, and standing your ground, no matter the battlefield. I'm Kyra Stinson, a proud veteran of the United States Air Force, and today, I've got a tale that'll have you on the edge of your seat. What was that question I asked? And how did my time in the Air Force prepare me for the ultimate family showdown? Stick around because this story is about to take off like a fighter jet. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, you won't want to miss the twists coming your way. Let me take you back to the beginning. Growing up in a quiet suburban town, I was always the second fiddle in my family orchestra. My older sister, Lila, was the star soloist, beautiful, outgoing, and somehow always in the spotlight. I remember one particular evening when I was 12. I'd spent 3 months building a scale model of an F-16 fighter jet, every rivet, every panel, perfectly detailed. I even researched the paint scheme used in Desert Storm. I was so proud. That night at dinner, I carried it to the table, hands trembling with excitement. Mom, Dad, look what I... Not now, Kyra, Dad interrupted, not even glancing up. Lila just got accepted to the National Dance Academy. This is huge. My mother squealed, already on the phone with relatives. The model sat on the table, ignored, until Lila's elbow knocked it to the floor during her celebratory dance. It shattered into pieces. Oh, sorry, she said, barely pausing. You can build another one, right? I swept up the fragments in silence. 3 months of work, gone in seconds. Just like that. Don't get me wrong, my parents, Marcus and Evelyn, didn't outright ignore me, but it was like I was the backup generator, reliable, but only noticed when the main power failed. Lila's straight-A report cards got framed on the living room wall like trophies from a championship game. Mine? They ended up in a drawer somewhere, gathering dust. Family vacations? They revolved around Lila's dance recitals or her weekend getaways with friends. Me? I tagged along, smiling through it, learning early on that keeping the peace meant staying silent. But here's what they didn't realize, silence isn't the same as submission. As a kid, I found solace in structure, organizing my room like a barracks, timing my chores with a stopwatch. I'd line up my shoes with military precision, arrange my books by size and color, create order in the one space I could control. By high school, I was already eyeing the skies. The Air Force called to me like a siren song, discipline, purpose, a place where merit mattered more than family favoritism. At 22, right after college, I enlisted. My parents' reaction? Really, Kyra? The military? What about a normal job? Lila's getting her MBA. I left anyway. Basic training was brutal, endless drills, obstacle courses that tested every muscle, and nights where the only sound was the hum of jets overhead. During one particularly grueling week, our training instructor made us crawl through mud under barbed wire while live ammunition fired overhead. My body screamed for me to quit. But every time I wanted to stop, I thought about that broken model airplane. About every ignored achievement. About every time I was told to wait my turn. I didn't quit. It forged me. In the Air Force, you learn to observe, document, and act with precision. No room for assumptions, everything's backed by evidence. I rose through the ranks, serving as a logistics specialist, managing supplies for missions that spanned the globe. It taught me that chaos could be tamed with the right systems, and that one overlooked detail could change everything. While I was deployed overseas, juggling flight schedules and inventory audits under the relentless sun, things back home simmered. My grandmother, Beatrice, was the one family member who saw through the facade. She was a sharp-witted widow who'd built her own small fortune through smart investments in real estate and stocks. Beatrice had no time for nonsense. She'd survived the Great Depression and 2 world wars worth of worry. She had this saying, "Money doesn't show you who people are, it shows you who they've always been." I didn't understand what she meant. Not yet. During one of my rare leaves, she invited me to her cozy cottage by the lake. I remember the drive, winding roads through autumn trees, leaves blazing orange and gold. When I arrived, she was waiting on the porch, a knowing smile on her weathered face. We sipped tea, watching the water lap at the shore. The peace felt surreal after months of deployment chaos. Then Beatrice set down her cup with a deliberate clink. "Kyra," she said, her voice steady as a compass, "family isn't always about blood. Sometimes, it's about who protects what matters." She disappeared inside and returned with a stack of old ledgers, family financial records she'd quietly copied over the years. "I need your eyes on these," she said. "Your military eyes." As I flipped through them, my Air Force-trained instincts kicked in immediately. This was exactly like inventory audits, looking for discrepancies, patterns that didn't fit. And they were everywhere. Repeated charges from the same vendors, but for different properties. Repair costs inflated beyond reason, one invoice for a roof fix that could have bought a small hangar. Transactions that didn't match bank statements. Payments to companies that, when I looked closer, didn't seem to exist. "See this?" Beatrice pointed to a line item with a trembling finger. "It's like they're painting the same fence twice." "But why?" Her eyes met mine, sharp and clear. She didn't accuse anyone outright, but the implication hung in the air like smoke. "Who handles the books?" I asked, though I already knew. "Lila," Beatrice whispered. "Always Lila. She's been the family manager for 5 years now." My stomach twisted. This wasn't just carelessness. This was systematic. Deliberate. "Grandma, why are you showing me this?" She took my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "Because you're the only one who'll see it for what it is. The only one who isn't blinded by wanting their approval." I didn't press then. Deployments waited, and family drama felt like a distant storm cloud. But Beatrice planted the seed. A year later, I was in Germany, rushing between flights during a layover, when my phone rang. Beatrice's number. "I've set things right," she whispered over the crackling line, her voice urgent. "A trust, Kyra. Revocable, airtight." She explained it simply. Not for inheritance. She'd named me as the successor trustee, to keep the one with the power to oversee the assets after her passing. I ducked into a quiet corner of the airport, mind you, pounding. That would paint a target on my back. "What are you talking about?" "Just the guardian. The protector. The one with authority to approve or deny any transactions." It was all documented, witnessed, and sealed by her lawyer. Ironclad. "Why me?" I asked, watching German planes take off through the window. Her laugh was warm but sad. "Because you see clearly, child. You're not blinded by the need to be loved at any cost. You've already proven you can survive without their approval." "Grandma, are you okay? You sound..." "I'm old, dear. And I'm tired. But I'm not foolish. Promise me you'll protect this. Promise me." The line crackled. "I promise." Those were the last words I ever spoke to her. Beatrice passed away peacefully 6 months later, at 89. I was on a mission in the Middle East when the news hit, sand in my boots, radio static in my ears. I stood in the scorching heat, reading the text message from my mother 3 times before it sank in. Grief mixed with duty, I couldn't fly home right away. The mission was critical. I had to finish. By the time I did return, the funeral was over. I visited her grave alone, a simple headstone by the lake she loved. I laid flowers and saluted, the way she would have wanted. "I'll keep my promise," I whispered. But the whispers had already started. In the family. About the estate. Lila, who'd always been the family manager, took charge of the estate details immediately. She sent out a group email the day after the funeral, "I'll handle everything. Don't worry. Grandma would want us to stay together." She lived lavishly, designer clothes, luxury cars, vacations to exotic spots with her husband, Derek. My parents doted on her, calling her the glue holding us together. Me? I was the absentee daughter, the one chasing jets instead of family dinners. I didn't hear from them for 2 months after the funeral. Not a call. Not a text. Then, suddenly, the pressure began. Emails from Dad: "We need to consolidate the assets, Kyra. Make it simple. Lila's been handling everything, it just makes sense to formalize it." Calls from Mom: "Lila's handling everything so well. Why rock the boat? You're so busy with your military work anyway." Then came the message that changed everything. It was from Dad, marked urgent, family meeting. Tuesday, 2 p.m. Be there. This is important. Don't miss it. No pleasantries. Just a command. I flew in from base, trading my flight suit for civilian clothes, but keeping my military mindset sharp. Something felt off. The tone. The timing. The urgency. As I drove up the familiar driveway, my gut twisted. There were cars everywhere, uncles, aunts, cousins I hadn't seen in years. I counted them as I parked. 23 vehicles. Why would they need 23 witnesses? I walked in, the air thick with lemon cleaner and the scent of Mom's famous roast chicken, her way of softening bad news. Folding chairs circled the oak dining table, transformed into a makeshift boardroom. It looked less like a family gathering and more like a military tribunal. Lila sat at the head, dressed in a sensible blouse and skirt, every inch the responsible executor. Derek hovered protectively beside her, arms crossed. Dad, ever the commander in his own right, a retired businessman with a bark like thunder, stood near the window, backlit like a general about to deliver orders. Mom paced, her hands twisting a dish towel into knots. Every relative avoided my eyes. "Sit down, Kyra," Dad ordered, his voice leaving no room for discussion. I sat. Military posture. Hands folded. Face neutral. Dad slid a thick folder across the table. It hit the wood with a heavy thud. "We've prepared the documents. Sign here, and it's done." I opened it slowly, scanning the pages with the precision I'd honed reviewing Air Force manifests. My eyes tracked down the numbers, the clauses, the fine print. It was a transfer agreement, $9.8 million in assets, properties, stocks, cash, from Beatrice's estate, all to Lila. Every single asset. Everything Grandma had built over 70 years. For simplification, Dad explained, his tone brooking no argument. "Lila's been managing it all. You're off, doing your thing. Flying around. This keeps the family united. Prevents conflicts. We all agree this is best." I looked up at the room. All those faces. All those witnesses. They'd brought an audience to pressure me. To shame me into compliance. "You've all agreed to this?" I asked quietly. Murmurs. Nods. An uncle cleared his throat. "It makes sense, Kyra. You're never here anyway." My heart raced like during a high G maneuver, blood pounding in my ears. But I kept my face neutral, Air Force poker face. Years of briefings with commanding officers had taught me never to show weakness. "No," I said simply. The word dropped like a bomb. The room erupted. Mom moved faster than I expected. Her hand flew out, slapping my cheek with a sting that echoed through the sudden silence. You ungrateful girl. We raised you. Clothed you. Fed you. You don't have a choice, sign it. My cheek burned. I didn't touch it. Didn't react. Lila leaned forward, her expression a perfect mask of concern. Kyra, please. We're just trying to keep everything together. You're barely here anymore. You don't understand the work this takes. This is for the best. For the family. Derek added, don't be selfish, Kyra. Think about what's right. 23 pairs of eyes watched me. Waiting for me to crumble. To be the quiet, obedient Kyra they'd always known. But that Kyra died in the desert heat of basic training. That's when I smiled. Not out of malice. Not out of spite. But out of absolute clarity. I turned to face the corner where Mr. Thornton sat, a balding man in a rumpled suit, hired by the family. He'd been silent this whole time, notepad in hand, looking increasingly uncomfortable. And I asked the question that would change everything. Mr. Thornton, I said, voice steady as a landing gear lock, do your clients here know who really holds the authority over these assets? The question hung in the air like a missile lock. Time seemed to stop. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. Someone's phone buzzed. No one moved. Mr. Thornton's eyebrows shot up behind his glasses. He looked at me. Then at Dad. Then back at me. His face went pale. Well, ma'am. He stammered, adjusting his glasses nervously. Perhaps you should explain. Dad's face began to redden, a vein pulsing in his temple, the one that always appeared when he was about to explode. What the hell are you talking about? Explain what? I reached into my bag, always prepared, thanks to years of packing go bags for deployments, and pulled out my copies of Beatrice's trust documents. They were in a military-grade waterproof case. I'd carried them with me ever since Grandma died. Just in case. This, I said calmly, laying them out on the table like evidence at a court-martial. Grandma set up a revocable trust years ago. And guess who's named as the successor trustee? I let the pause stretch out. Let them wonder. Me. Another pause. Not the beneficiary, the authority. That means no transfers, no sales, nothing happens with these assets without my explicit sign-off. Gasps rippled through the room like turbulence hitting a plane. Lila lunged for the papers, but Derek caught her arm, holding her back. This can't be real, she hissed, her perfect composure cracking. You're lying. You're making this up to hurt me. You've always been jealous. Dad slammed his fist on the table so hard the coffee cups jumped. You manipulated her. That old woman was senile. She didn't know what she was signing. Beatrice had dementia. Mom wailed. She couldn't have meant this. How could you do this to us? After everything we've done for you? We deserve this money. The room dissolved into chaos. Voices overlapping. Accusations flying. Mr. Thornton cleared his throat loudly. Then louder. Finally, he stood. Enough. The room fell silent. Mr. Thornton adjusted his glasses again, sweat beading on his forehead. Actually, sir, he said, addressing my father, I've reviewed the original documents. Filed with the county. The trust is completely valid, witnessed by 2 independent parties, notarized, filed properly. Mrs. Beatrice Henderson was examined by a physician who certified her mental competency at the time of signing. He pulled out his own folder, hands shaking slightly. Ms. Stinson here is indeed the named successor trustee. She holds all authority over asset management and distribution. Any attempt to transfer assets without her consent would be. He paused, choosing his words carefully, fraudulent. Potentially criminal. The twist hit them like a sonic boom. Lila's face went white as paper. Derek immediately stepped back from her, creating physical distance. An aunt whispered, I told you something was off. My father stood frozen, the document still in his hands, realization dawning across his features. And then I played my final card. Would you like to know why Grandma did this? I asked, pulling out the second folder. These are the financial records she kept. Copies of everything. All those irregularities she noticed. They all point to the same place. I spread them across the table. Lila's been skimming. For years. Padding expenses. Double billing. Creating invoices for work that was never done. Payments to shell companies. Over $500,000, by my initial count. Lila's legs seemed to give out. She grabbed the table for support. That's not, I can explain. Please do, I said calmly. Explain the $47,000 roof repair on the Lake Street property that never happened. Explain the $23,000 in landscaping for a property that's been vacant for 2 years. Explain the monthly payments to Henderson Management Solutions, which just happens to be registered to your husband's cousin. Derek's face went purple. You what? He shouted at Lila. I was going to tell you, she stammered. It was just, you wanted the boat, and the house in the Hamptons, and using stolen money. Derek backed toward the door. I'm done. I want nothing to do with this. I'm calling my lawyer. He left. The door slammed. Lila crumpled into her chair, mascara starting to run. I stood, gathering my papers with precise movements. This meeting is over, I declared. Mr. Thornton, I'll be in touch to discuss the next steps for properly managing the estate. Everyone else, thank you for coming. I'm sure you all have places to be. I walked toward the door, silence following me like a wake. My mother's voice cracked behind me. Kyra, wait. I paused but didn't turn around. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know. I thought Lila was just good at this. I didn't know she was stealing. You knew I was invisible, I said quietly. You knew that. You just didn't care. I walked out, the door clicking shut behind me like a cockpit canopy, sealing them in their choices. But the story doesn't end there, oh no, we're just hitting cruising altitude. In the weeks that followed, I didn't seek revenge, I sought order. That's what the Air Force taught me: establish protocols, follow procedures, document everything. I hired my own team, accountants who specialized in fraud detection, lawyers who handled estate litigation, fiduciaries with sterling reputations. We conducted a full forensic audit. The findings were worse than I'd thought. Not $500,000. Try $847,000 over 7 years. Lila had been careful at first, small amounts, plausible expenses. But as she realized no one was checking, she'd gotten bolder. Greedier. We froze all discretionary spending. Standardized operations. Implemented proper oversight and controls. Every expense now required documentation, receipts, and trustee approval. Lila's world crumbled like a sandcastle at high tide. Credit cards started declining at her favorite boutiques. The lease on her BMW wasn't renewed. The country club membership lapsed. Derek filed for divorce within 2 weeks, citing fraudulent misrepresentation of financial status. In the filing, he claimed he'd never known about the theft, that he'd been deceived too. Convenient. 2 months after the meeting, Lila called me at 2 a.m. I was at my apartment on base, reviewing flight schedules for the next day. Kyra? Her voice was broken, raw from crying. Kyra, please. Please fix this. We're family. Doesn't that mean anything? I sat in the dark, phone pressed to my ear, listening to her sob. Family doesn't steal, Lila, I said calmly. Family doesn't forge documents. Family doesn't manipulate and lie for years. Get help. Real help. Therapy. A job. Something honest. I don't know how to, please. Please, I'm begging. Goodbye, Lila. I hung up. My parents? They downsized. Sold the fancy car Dad loved. Moved from the 4-bedroom house to a smaller condo across town. Mom's garden club friends stopped calling. Mom left voicemails weekly, alternating between guilt trips and apologies. We didn't raise you to be this cold. We're sorry, we should have listened. How can you do this to your own mother? Please, Kyra, call us back. I didn't. Not for 6 months. Then Dad requested a one-on-one meeting. No lawyers. No witnesses. Just us. We met at a dingy diner near my old base, vinyl booths and burnt coffee. He looked older. Smaller somehow. The commanding presence I'd feared my whole childhood seemed diminished. We sat in silence for a long time. The waitress refilled our coffee twice before either of us spoke. I was wrong, Kyra, he finally admitted, staring at his hands that had once seemed so powerful. I treated your quiet as agreement. Pushed you aside because Lila demanded the attention and it was easier to give it to her than to see you. I should have protected you, the way you protected our country. I should have been proud instead of whatever I was. We talked for hours. About my childhood slights, every forgotten birthday, every ignored achievement. About his regrets. About my Air Force scars, the things I'd seen overseas that I couldn't unsee. About Lila's addiction to approval and money. About Mom's need to keep everyone happy even when it made no sense. It wasn't a fairy tale reconciliation. There were no tears or hugs. But it was a truce. Boundaries set, like no-fly zones. They could be in my life, but on my terms. With honesty. With respect. Today, the assets are secure. I established a proper management structure with professional oversight. The properties are properly maintained and rented. The investments are diversified and growing. And the income? It's generating funds for the charitable causes Beatrice loved, veteran support programs, education funds for underprivileged kids, women's shelters. Grandma would be proud. I've built my own life now. After leaving active duty, I started consulting on logistics for defense firms, using the skills the Air Force gave me. I speak at military events about resilience, leadership, and standing your ground. The family? Distant but civil. Lila's in therapy, I'm told. Working a regular job at an accounting firm, ironically. She sends a Christmas card each year. I haven't opened one yet. Maybe someday. Mom and Dad visit occasionally, on my terms. We have dinner. Keep it light. They ask about my work. I ask about their condo. We don't talk about Lila. We don't talk about the money. Some wounds heal. Some just scar over. But I'm free now. Free from the need for their approval. Free from the invisible chains of being the forgotten daughter. The Air Force gave me wings. Grandma gave me the courage to use them. Phew, what a ride, right? If this story resonated, about standing tall against manipulation, using your skills to uncover truth, refusing to be invisible anymore, give it a thumbs up and share your own family drama in the comments below. Have you ever had to draw a line with loved ones? Have you ever discovered you were being taken advantage of by people you trusted? Let's discuss. And if you're inspired by tales of valor like this, subscribe to Valor Voice for more. Hit that bell. Next week's story involves a battlefield betrayal that changed everything. A story about trust, survival, and the moment I realized the enemy wasn't who I thought. Thanks for watching. This is Kyra Stinson, signing off. Stay strong. Stay vigilant. And never, ever sign something without reading it first.